I watched my daughter-in-law Tamika tear open the small gift box I'd placed in her hands, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the paper. The entire party went silent. Her face twisted into something ugly as she held up the delicate silver bracelet with a single charm. A tiny house. "Is this all?" Her voice cut through the room like a knife. "Girl, I guess that's the best you can do, huh? Living on that little Social Security check?" She turned to her friends, laughing. "Y'all, look at this. My broke mother-in-law out here shopping at the dollar store for my 30th birthday." Her friends joined in, their laughter echoing off the walls of my dining room. My dining room. In my house. The house they'd been living in rent-free for 5 years. I just smiled and reached into my purse. "Oh, I have one more thing for you, baby." I handed her the manila envelope. Tamika's face drained of every drop of color as she read the words, "Eviction notice, 30 days" across the top. Her hands started shaking. "What? What is this?" "That's your real birthday gift, sweetheart," I said calmly. 30 days to find somewhere else to live. You have until December 15th to be out of my house." The room went dead silent. Her champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on my hardwood floor. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this all started, 5 years ago, when I made the biggest mistake of my life. My name is Odessa Whitmore, and I'm 72 years old. I worked for 43 years as a nurse at Mercy General Hospital, saving every penny I could. I bought this house in the West End 30 years ago when this neighborhood was nothing but empty lots and broken promises. I watched it grow into something beautiful. I raised my son Terrence here, sent him to college, watched him graduate with honors. I was so proud. Then he met Tamika. At first, I thought she was lovely. She had ambition, she said, dreams of becoming an event planner. She dressed well, spoke well, and my Terrence looked at her like she hung the moon and stars. They got married at Bethel AME Church, and I paid for half the wedding because Tamika's mother said she couldn't afford it. $20,000. I pulled it from my retirement savings without hesitation because I wanted my son to be happy. "Mama, you didn't have to do that," Terrence said, hugging me tight after the ceremony. "Baby, that's what family does," I told him. "We take care of each other." If only I'd known those words would come back to haunt me. The trouble started 6 months after the wedding. Terrence and Tamika had been renting a small apartment across town, but Tamika complained constantly. The neighbors were too loud, the area wasn't safe, the apartment was too small for them to start a family. "Mama," Terrence said one Sunday after church, "I need to ask you something." We were sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught him to make my grandmother's sweet potato pie. The same kitchen where we'd celebrated every birthday, every holiday, every milestone. "What is it, baby?" "Tamika and I, we're trying to save up for a house. But rent is eating up everything. I was wondering if, maybe, we could stay with you for a little while? Just 6 months, maybe a year at most. Just until we get on our feet." I looked at my son's face, saw the worry there, the stress. He'd always been such a good boy, never gave me a bit of trouble growing up. "Of course you can stay here," I said. "This is your home too, always will be." I'd raised Terrence to believe that family sticks together through everything. That's how my mama raised me, and her mama before her. We might not have had much, but we had each other. I thought I was doing the right thing. They moved in that weekend. At first, everything seemed fine. Tamika would cook dinner sometimes, though she never quite got the seasoning right on the collard greens. She'd clean up after herself, mostly. Terrence was happy, and that made me happy. But slowly, things started to change. It started with small comments. "Odessa, do you really need to have the TV up that loud?" "Odessa, your friends from church are so noisy when they come over." "Odessa, can you try to keep it down in the mornings? Some of us are trying to sleep in." I'd lived in this house for 30 years. But suddenly, I felt like I was the guest. Then Tamika stopped working. She said she'd quit her job at the hotel to focus on starting her event planning business. That was 3 months after they moved in. I never saw her plan a single event. "Don't worry, Mama," Terrence assured me. "It takes time to build a business. She's working on her website, her social media presence. It's all part of the process." I wanted to believe him. I watched Tamika spend her days shopping online, getting her nails done, meeting her friends for lunch. Meanwhile, Terrence was working 60-hour weeks at the logistics company, coming home exhausted. 6 months turned into a year. A year turned into 2. "When are you all planning to move out?" I asked Terrence one evening. We were alone in the living room. Tamika had gone to the spa. He looked uncomfortable. "Soon, Mama. We're still saving." "Baby, you've been here 2 years now. I'm not trying to rush you, but—" "I know, Mama. I know. Just give us a little more time." I gave them more time. What else could I do? He was my son. By year 3, I barely recognized my own life. Tamika had slowly taken over the entire house. She redecorated my living room without asking, saying my furniture was dated. She invited her friends over constantly, and they'd stay until late in the night, laughing and drinking in my den. When I'd try to join them, the conversation would stop, and they'd look at me like I was interrupting. "Odessa, we're having grown folks conversation," Tamika said once, smiling sweetly. "You probably want to get your rest anyway. You know, at your age." I was 70 years old, not dead. I started spending more time at my sister Gloria's house, or at church with my friends. It was easier than feeling like a stranger in my own home. "Odessa, something ain't right over there," my sister told me. She was 3 years younger than me, and she'd never liked Tamika. "That girl is walking all over you, and Terrence is letting her." "She's family, Gloria. Family don't treat family like that." But I kept quiet. I kept the peace. I told myself it wouldn't be much longer. Then came my birthday party last month, my 72nd birthday. I didn't want anything big, just a small gathering with my church friends, my sister, and a few neighbors. Tamika insisted on planning it. "Let me do this for you, Odessa," she said. "I am an event planner after all. It's the least I can do." I should have known better. The party was nice enough. Tamika had decorated the dining room with balloons and flowers. She'd ordered a cake from the bakery. My friends came, bearing gifts and well wishes. But the whole time, Tamika kept making little comments. "Odessa, maybe sit down. You look tired." "Odessa, let me handle the food. You might spill something on your outfit." "Odessa, why don't you go rest upstairs? We'll clean up." It was my birthday party, in my house, and I felt like I was in the way. After everyone left, I was cleaning up in the kitchen when I overheard Tamika on the phone in the next room. "Girl, yes, finally over," she was saying. "I thought those old church ladies would never leave. I swear, if I have to pretend to care about Odessa's boring stories one more time—" She laughed. "No, Terrence is whipped. He does whatever I say. And she's not going anywhere. Where would she even go? This is her house. For now." For now. Those 2 words chilled me to the bone. I stood there in my kitchen, my hands covered in soap suds, and I finally saw the truth. Tamika wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to stay. And eventually she was planning to push me out of my own home. The next morning, I made a phone call to my lawyer, Bernard Hughes. Bernard had handled my real estate paperwork when I bought this house 30 years ago, and he'd helped me with my will a few years back. "Bernard, I need to talk to you about my house," I said. What he told me made my blood run cold. 2 years ago, Terrence had come to Bernard's office. He'd told Bernard that I was getting forgetful, that I was having trouble managing my affairs, and that I wanted to add his name to the deed of the house just in case something happened. "I should have called you to verify," Bernard said, his voice full of regret. but Terrence showed me a power of attorney document with your signature. I thought it was legitimate. My signature. I had never signed anything. Bernard, that's forgery. I know, Odessa. I know. If you want to press charges— Not yet, I said. First, I want my house back. Can we reverse this? Yes, but it'll take some legal maneuvering. The good news is you're still on the deed as primary owner. We can remove his name, but you'll need to formally evict them if they refuse to leave. Then that's what we'll do. It took 3 weeks to get everything in order. 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal. 3 weeks of watching Tamika redecorate another room, plan another shopping trip, host another party. 3 weeks of planning my revenge. Then came Tamika's 30th birthday party last week. She'd invited everyone, her friends, her mother, her sisters. She'd bought a new dress, new shoes, had her hair done at the salon. She'd ordered expensive catering, hired a bartender, turned my living room into a nightclub. "Aren't you going to get Tamika a gift, Mama?" Terrence asked me the day before. "Oh, I have something special planned," I told him. I bought that silver bracelet with the tiny house charm. Cost me $35 at the jeweler's downtown. Then I put it in a nice box with tissue paper, and I put the eviction notice in a manila envelope. When Tamika opened that gift in front of all her friends and family, when she laughed at my broke gift and mocked me for being poor, I saw her for exactly what she was. A snake who'd slithered into my home, wrapped herself around my son, and tried to squeeze me out of my own life. So I handed her that envelope with a smile on my face. Now, 1 week later, Tamika hasn't spoken to me except to scream. Terrence has tried to mediate, but I've stood firm. My lawyer has made it clear. They have 30 days, not 1 day more. "Mama, please," Terrence begged me yesterday. "We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you forged my signature and tried to steal my house." His face went pale. "How did you— You think I'm some senile old woman you can manipulate?" I felt tears sting my eyes. "I raised you better than this, Terrence. I raised you to be honest, to be respectful. What happened to my son?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "Tamika said we needed security. She said you might leave the house to Gloria instead of me. She said, 'So you committed fraud because your wife told you to?' But that conversation is for another day. Right now, I'm sitting in my living room watching Tamika pack boxes and throw things around upstairs. She's been calling her mother, her sisters, her friends, crying about how cruel I am. What she doesn't know is that I've already called Bernard again. Because this morning, I found something in Terrence's desk drawer while he was at work, something that changes everything. A stack of loan documents, applications for lines of credit using my house as collateral. All denied so far, thank God, because Terrence couldn't prove full ownership. But there were other papers, too. Emails between Tamika and a real estate investor, discussing plans to convince me to move into a nursing home so they could sell the house and split the profits. My son and his wife weren't just trying to steal my home. They were plotting to throw me away like garbage. The eviction notice was just the beginning. I sat at my kitchen table with those papers spread out in front of me, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold my coffee cup. 23 loan applications. 23 times my son had tried to use my house, my home that I'd worked 43 years to pay for, as collateral for loans I knew nothing about. But it was the emails that broke my heart. "Once we get full ownership, we can start the process," Tamika had written to someone named Gerald Pierce, a real estate investor. "I'm working on convincing her that assisted living would be better for her health. She's old and getting slower. Won't be hard to make the case that she can't take care of herself anymore." Terrence had replied to that same email thread. "How much could we get for the house?" "In this neighborhood? At least $450,000. After my commission, you'd walk away with about $400,000. Enough to buy something nice for yourselves and keep the old lady comfortable in a facility. Keep me comfortable in a facility. Like I was a piece of furniture they were putting in storage." I read that email chain 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This wasn't just about the house. They'd been planning to erase me from my own life. My phone rang. It was my sister, Gloria. "Odessa, baby, what's wrong? You sound terrible." I told her everything. About the forged documents, the loan applications, the emails planning to put me away. "That's it," Gloria said, her voice sharp with fury. "I'm coming over right now, and I'm bringing Pastor Williams." "Gloria, no, I can handle—" "No, you can't. Not alone. This is beyond family drama now, Dessa. This is elder abuse. This is fraud. This is criminal." She hung up before I could argue. Pastor Williams arrived at my house an hour later with Gloria, and also with Deacon Murray and Sister Claudette from the church council. They sat in my living room, the same living room Tamika had redecorated without my permission, and listened while I showed them everything. Pastor Williams is a tall man in his 60s, with gray in his beard and a voice that could shake the rafters when he preached. But right then, sitting on my couch, he just looked sad. "Sister Odessa," he said quietly, "how long has this been going on?" 5 years of them living here. But the fraud, I just found out about it. "And Terrence?" Sister Claudette asked. She'd known my son since he was in the youth choir. "He's involved in all of this?" I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. That's when we heard the front door slam. Tamika's voice echoed through the house. "Can you believe this, Mama? She's actually going through with it, after everything we've done for her." Tamika's mother, Iris, had apparently come over. I could hear them in the hallway. "Well, you're not going without a fight," Iris said. "She can't just throw you out. You have rights." They walked into the living room and stopped dead when they saw Pastor Williams and the others. "Oh," Tamika said, her eyes narrowing. "Having a church meeting, Odessa? What? You gonna pray me out of the house?" Pastor Williams stood up. "Tamika, I think you need to watch your tone." "I think you need to mind your business, Pastor." Tamika crossed her arms. "This is between me and my mother-in-law." "It stopped being a private family matter when fraud was committed," Deacon Murray said firmly. He was a retired police officer, and his voice had that authority that couldn't be ignored. Tamika's face went pale. "I don't know what lies she's been telling you, but—" "These aren't lies," I said, standing up and holding out the papers. "These are loan applications using my house as collateral, applications I never approved. And these are emails between you and a real estate investor planning to put me in a nursing home so you could sell my house." Iris snatched the papers from my hand. Her face changed as she read them. "Tamika," she said slowly, "please tell me this isn't real." "Mama, it's not what it looks like." "It looks like fraud," Deacon Murray said. "It looks like elder abuse. It looks like conspiracy to commit theft." "You can't prove anything," Tamika's voice got shrill. "Those papers could be fake. She could have made all this up because she's bitter and jealous that Terrence chose me over her." "Chose you over me?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Baby, I'm his mother. There's no competition. Or there shouldn't be." "But there is!" Tamika shouted. "There's always been. You with your my baby this and my son that, and always making him feel guilty if he doesn't do exactly what you want. You manipulated him into staying here, and now you're manipulating him with these fake papers." Gloria stood up then, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, and got right in Tamika's face. "My sister worked her fingers to the bone at that hospital for over 40 years. She raised that boy by herself after his daddy died. She put him through college. She paid for your wedding. She opened her home to you when you had nowhere else to go. And this is how you repay her? By stealing her house and planning to throw her away?" We weren't. That's when Terrence came home from work. He walked in still wearing his work uniform, his face tired. But when he saw everyone gathered in the living room, Pastor Williams, the deacons, Gloria, Tamika, and her mother, he knew something was very wrong. "What's going on?" I held up the papers. "Tell them, Terrence. Tell them about these loan applications. Tell them about the emails planning to sell my house and put me in a nursing home." My son's face crumbled. He looked at Tamika, then at me, then at Pastor Williams. "Mama, I can explain." "Explain what?" My voice broke. "Explain how you forged my signature? Explain how you plotted with your wife to steal everything I worked for? Explain how you were going to put your own mother away like trash?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Pastor Williams asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like that." Terrence sank down onto the couch, his head in his hands. "We were desperate. We had debt. So much debt. Tamika's shopping, the credit cards, the car payments. We were drowning. And the house was just sitting here, worth so much money, and I thought if we could just refinance, use some of the equity." "Without asking me?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Without even telling me?" "You would have said no." "Because it's my house, Terrence. My house that I bought with my money from my job. You don't get to steal from me just because you made bad financial decisions." Tamika jumped in. "See? This is exactly what I told you, Terrence. She doesn't care about us. She doesn't care that we're struggling. All she cares about is her precious house." "You're not struggling," I shouted, and I never shout. But everything came pouring out. "You're living rent-free. No mortgage, no rent, nothing. If you're in debt, it's because you spend money like it grows on trees. New clothes every week, hair salon twice a month, nails every week, shopping trips, parties. I've watched you throw money away for 5 years while my son works himself to death trying to keep up with you." The room went silent. Iris spoke then, her voice quiet. "Tamika, is that true?" "Mama." "Don't listen to her. Answer me. Is it true?" Tamika's face twisted. "So what if I like nice things? So what if I like to look good? Is that a crime? Maybe if Odessa hadn't been so cheap and actually gave us some money to help out, we wouldn't be in this situation." "Help out?" I stared at her. "I gave you a place to live, free, for 5 years. Do you know how much rent would have cost you? At least $2,000 a month. That's $120,000 I've given you just by letting you stay here." I saw Terrence's face as he did the math. He'd never thought about it that way. "And that's not including utilities," Gloria added. "Water, electricity, internet cable. Add another $500 a month. That's another $30,000. You've gotten over $150,000 in free housing. And you still want more?" Tamika looked like a trapped animal. You needed to learn to be grateful," Sister Claudette said quietly. "You needed to learn that family takes care of each other, but that doesn't mean taking advantage." Tamika grabbed her purse. "I don't have to listen to this. Come on, Terrence. We're leaving." But Terrence didn't move. "Terrence!" Tamika's voice got sharp. "Let's go." "Where are we going to go, Tamika?" My son's voice was hollow. "We have no money. Our credit is destroyed. We have nowhere to go because we spent 5 years not saving a single penny while we lived here free. Your mother is kicking us out. In 30 days, we'll be homeless because of her." "No," Terrence said, looking up at her with something new in his eyes, something like clarity. "We'll be homeless because of us. Because of me for being stupid enough to forge her signature. Because of you for pushing me to do it. Because we got greedy and entitled and forgot that none of this was ours to begin with." Tamika's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "How dare you?" "He's right," Iris said. She looked at her daughter with disappointment written all over her face. "Tamika, what you did was wrong. What you both did was wrong." "Mama, whose side are you on?" "I'm on the side of what's right, and this ain't it." Tamika grabbed her keys and stormed toward the door. "Fine, I'm going to stay with Keisha. Terrence, you can come or you can stay with your mama. But make your choice now." Everyone looked at Terrence. My son sat there on that couch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. This was the boy I'd raised, the man I'd been so proud of. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost him, or maybe he'd lost himself. "Mama," he said quietly, not looking at Tamika. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But I'm not leaving. Not like this. I need to make this right." Tamika let out a sound of pure rage and slammed out of the house. The silence that followed was deafening. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. "Terrence, I think you need to understand the seriousness of what you've done. Forging documents, attempting fraud, these are crimes. Your mother would be within her rights to press charges." Terrence nodded, tears running down his face. "I know." Everyone looked at me. I thought about my son as a little boy, holding my hand as we walked to church on Sundays. I thought about him at his high school graduation, his face beaming with pride. I thought about all the times he'd told me he loved me, all the times he'd promised to take care of me when I got old. And I thought about those emails, those cold, calculating emails, planning to erase me from my own life. "I need time to think," I said. "Terrence, you can stay until the 30 days are up, but after that, I want you out, both of you." "Mama, I'm not finished." I took a deep breath. "After that, we'll see. Maybe, with time and therapy and a lot of hard work, we can rebuild our relationship. But right now, I can't even look at you without seeing those emails, without remembering that you were going to throw me away." Terrence dropped his head into his hands and sobbed. Pastor Williams put a hand on his shoulder. "Son, if you're serious about making this right, you're going to need counseling, both individual and marriage counseling. And you're going to need to be completely honest with your wife about finances, about boundaries, about everything." "She's not going to listen," Terrence said. "She's never going to change." "Then you need to decide what's more important," Deacon Murray said. "Your marriage or your integrity? Because you can't have both if she won't meet you halfway." After everyone left, it was just me and Terrence in that big house. He'd gone upstairs to the guest room. I'd told him he couldn't sleep in the master bedroom anymore, the room he'd taken over from me 3 years ago. I sat in my kitchen, looking at those papers again. My lawyer, Bernard, had told me to keep them safe. Evidence, he called it. Insurance. But what I really wanted to do was burn them. Burn away this whole nightmare and wake up 5 years ago with the chance to say no when Terrence first asked to move in. My phone buzzed. A text from Gloria. "You did good today, Dessa. I'm proud of you. That took strength." Then another text, this one from Pastor Williams. "Sister Odessa, the church council met tonight. We want you to know that we're here for you. Whatever you need, legal help, financial support, just someone to talk to. You're not alone." I started crying then. Big, heavy tears that I'd been holding back for 5 years. Tears for my son who'd betrayed me. Tears for the family I thought I had. Tears for the home that no longer felt like mine. But also tears of relief, because I wasn't alone. I had Gloria, I had my church family, I had people who saw what was happening and stood up for me. I fell asleep at that kitchen table, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. I woke up to the sound of breaking glass. It was 3 a.m. I jumped up from the table, my heart pounding, and ran toward the sound. The front window was shattered. Glass was everywhere. And in the middle of my living room floor was a brick with a note tied to it. With shaking hands, I unwrapped the note. "You're going to regret this, you bitter old witch. I'm going to make your life hell. You haven't seen anything yet. T." I stood there in my nightgown, surrounded by broken glass, and realized something chilling. This war was just beginning. I called the police at 3:15 a.m., standing in my living room surrounded by broken glass, that threatening note clutched in my hand. My whole body was shaking, but not just from fear. I was angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my 72 years. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes, Officer Janine Mitchell and Officer Curtis Webb. Officer Mitchell was a young black woman, maybe in her 30s, and when she saw the brick and read the note, her face hardened. "Ma'am, do you know who T is?" "My daughter-in-law, Tamika Crawford. Well, Tamika Whitmore now, I guess. She and my son have been living here, but I served them an eviction notice. She didn't take it well." Officer Webb was taking pictures of everything: the broken window, the brick, the note. "Is she still on the premises?" "No, she left earlier today after an argument. Said she was staying with a friend." "And your son?" As if on cue, Terrence came running down the stairs in his pajamas. "Mama, what happened? I heard—" He stopped when he saw the police, the broken window, the glass everywhere. "Your wife happened," I said coldly. Officer Mitchell showed him the note. I watched my son's face crumble as he read it. "Oh, God," he whispered. "Oh, God, Mama, I'm so sorry. I didn't know she'd—" "Where is your wife, Mr. Whitmore?" Officer Webb asked. "She's staying with her friend Keisha Rivers, on Burnside Avenue." The officers exchanged a look. "We're going to need to speak with her. This is destruction of property and criminal threatening. Your mother can press charges if she wants." "I want to press charges," I said firmly. "Against Tamika, yes, but not against my son. Not yet." Terrence looked at me with something like hope in his eyes, but I held up my hand. "Don't thank me, Terrence. I'm giving you one chance to prove you're still the son I raised, one chance to make this right." The police left to go find Tamika, and I called Bernard, my lawyer, even though it was nearly 4 a.m. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Odessa? What's wrong?" I told him everything: the brick, the note, the police report. "That's it," Bernard said. "We're filing for an emergency restraining order, first thing Monday morning, and I'm expediting the eviction. I'll argue that there's been threats and property damage. We can get them out in 7 days instead of 30. 7 days? She threatened you, Odessa. She destroyed your property. The judge will side with us. Trust me." After I hung up with Bernard, I called Gloria. Within an hour, she was at my house with her husband Raymond, and they helped me board up the window temporarily and clean up the glass. "You're staying with us," Gloria said. It wasn't a question. "This is my house, Gloria. I'm not leaving." "Then Raymond and I are staying here. You're not staying alone, not with that crazy girl out there." I was too tired to argue. The next morning, Sunday, Pastor Williams made an announcement at church. I hadn't wanted him to, but he insisted. "Our sister Odessa is going through a difficult time," he told the congregation. "She needs our prayers, but more than that, she needs our presence. She needs to know that this church family stands with her." After service, at least 15 people came up to me. Sister Claudette pressed a casserole into my hands. "For your dinner tonight, baby." Deacon Murray gave me his personal phone number. "You call me day or night if you need anything. I mean it." Brother James, who owned a glass repair company, told me he'd fix my window for free. "Monday morning, Sister Odessa. No charge." Even some of the younger members, people who barely knew me, came up and offered support. A young woman named Destiny who worked in IT said, "If you need security cameras installed, I can do that. Free of charge. Nobody should feel unsafe in their own home." I stood there in the church fellowship hall, surrounded by all these people, and I realized something. Tamika had isolated me from this community over the years, made me feel like I was always in the way, always too much. But these people, my church family, they hadn't forgotten about me. They'd been here all along. Monday morning came fast. I went to the courthouse with Bernard, and we filed for the emergency restraining order and the expedited eviction. The hearing was set for Wednesday. Tamika had been arrested Sunday morning for property destruction and criminal threatening. She'd been released on bail Monday afternoon. I knew this because Terrence told me, his voice heavy with shame. "She's furious, Mama. She's threatening to countersue you for emotional distress, for age discrimination, for false imprisonment." "Let her try," Bernard said. We were sitting in my living room, going over the case. "She has no grounds. and her criminal charges will undermine any civil case she tries to bring. Wednesday came. The courthouse was packed. Tamika showed up with a lawyer, some young man in a cheap suit who looked fresh out of law school. She'd also brought her mother Iris, her 2 sisters, and about 5 friends for moral support. But I had brought my own army: Gloria and Raymond, Pastor Williams and Sister Claudette, Deacon Murray, Bernard, and about 20 other members of Bethel AME Church, all dressed in their Sunday best, filling up the gallery behind me. Judge Andrea Harrison was a black woman in her 50s with silver streaks in her hair and no patience for nonsense. She listened as Bernard presented our case: the forged documents, the loan applications, the emails planning to institutionalize me and sell my house, the threatening note, the broken window. Tamika's lawyer tried to argue that the note could have been written by anyone, that there was no proof Tamika threw the brick. Then Officer Mitchell took the stand. "We recovered the brick and the note," she testified. "We also pulled security footage from a neighbor's Ring camera. The footage clearly shows Mrs. Tamika Whitmore throwing the brick through the window at 2:47 a.m. on Sunday morning." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Harrison banged her gavel. "Order!" Tamika's lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Tamika herself sat there with her arms crossed, glaring at me like this was all my fault. The judge reviewed all the evidence, every single piece of paper Bernard had prepared: the forged power of attorney, the loan applications, the emails, the police report, the video footage. When she finally looked up, her expression was ice cold. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, addressing Tamika, "I've been a judge for 15 years. I've seen a lot of cases of elder abuse, financial exploitation, and family manipulation. But I have rarely seen a case this clear-cut, this calculated, or this cruel." Tamika started to speak, but her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "You moved into this woman's home under the pretense of temporary assistance. You stayed for 5 years, rent-free. You attempted to forge documents to steal her house. You planned to institutionalize her against her will so you could profit from the sale of her property. And when she finally stood up for herself, you responded with violence and threats." Judge Harrison looked at me then, her expression softening. "Mrs. Whitmore, Mrs. Odessa Whitmore, I am granting your request for an emergency restraining order. Mrs. Tamika Whitmore is ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from you at all times. I am also granting the expedited eviction. Both Mr. Terrence Whitmore and Mrs. Tamika Whitmore have 72 hours to vacate the premises. Not 30 days, 72 hours. Tamika jumped to her feet. "That's not fair! Where are we supposed to go?" "You should have thought about that before you threw a brick through your mother-in-law's window," Judge Harrison said sharply. "You're lucky Mrs. Whitmore isn't pressing charges for the forgery and attempted fraud. If it were up to me, you'd be facing criminal charges on top of everything else." She banged her gavel. "This court is adjourned." Tamika stormed out of the courtroom, her mother and sisters hurrying after her. But I noticed Iris looked back at me, and there was something in her eyes. Maybe apology, maybe shame. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Terrence found me. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past 2 weeks. "Mama, I know I have no right to ask this, but can we talk? Just the 2 of us?" I looked at Gloria, who nodded. "We'll wait right here." Terrence and I walked to a quiet corner of the courthouse hallway. We stood there by a window overlooking the city, this city where I'd lived my whole life, where I'd raised my son. "I filed for divorce," Terrence said quietly. "This morning. I should have done it years ago, but I was scared. Scared of being alone, scared of failing, scared of admitting I'd made a mistake. I didn't say anything. I just waited." "You raised me better than this, Mama. You taught me about integrity, about respect, about taking care of family. And I threw all of that away because I was weak. Because I let Tamika convince me that we were entitled to your house, your money, your life." His voice broke. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to ever be the same. But I want you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you raised me to be. The man Dad would have been proud of." I felt tears on my cheeks. "Your father would have been disappointed, Terrence. Just like I am. But he also would have believed in second chances. He always did." "Does that mean—" "It means you have 72 hours to move out. It means we're going to take things one day at a time. It means you're going to prove to me through your actions, not your words, that you've changed. And it means you're going to get therapy, real therapy, and work on yourself." Terrence nodded, wiping his eyes. "I already made an appointment. First session is next week." "Good." We stood there for a moment longer, and then Terrence did something he hadn't done in years. He hugged me, really hugged me, the way he used to when he was a little boy and needed comfort. "I love you, Mama," he whispered. "I love you too, baby," I said. "But love isn't enough. You have to do better." "I will. I promise I will." Those 72 hours passed in a blur. Terrence moved out quietly, taking only his personal belongings. He found a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, but it was his. He was starting over. Tamika, on the other hand, made the process as difficult as possible. She tried to take furniture that wasn't hers. She tried to claim that items I'd owned for 30 years were actually hers. She even tried to come back one last time despite the restraining order, but Deacon Murray, who'd been helping me that day, called the police immediately. She was arrested again. This time, bail was set higher. On the 4th day, I woke up in my house, and it was quiet, peaceful, mine again. Brother James had fixed my window. Destiny had installed security cameras. The church sisters had helped me clean every room, reclaim every space. Sister Claudette and I had spent a whole afternoon redecorating the living room back to the way I liked it, putting my old furniture back, hanging my family photos back on the walls. Gloria came over that evening with a bottle of wine and a new set of locks for all my doors. "New beginning, Dessa," she said as we sat on my porch, watching the sunset. "New locks, new life." "I can't believe it's over," I said. "It's not over, baby. It's just starting. You got your home back. You got your life back. Now you get to decide what comes next." What came next surprised even me. I started volunteering at the senior center, teaching other elderly folks about protecting themselves from financial exploitation. I shared my story, the painful parts, the scary parts, the triumphant parts. And I watched other people find courage to stand up for themselves too. Pastor Williams asked me to speak at church one Sunday about my experience. I stood up there in front of the whole congregation and told them everything, about how easy it is to lose yourself when you're trying to keep the peace, about how family can hurt you deeper than strangers, about how it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. The line of people who came to talk to me after service stretched out the door. Terrence and I talked on the phone once a week. He'd finished his divorce and was working on himself. He'd gotten a promotion at work. He was paying off his debts. Slowly, painfully, he was rebuilding his life. "Mama," he said during one of our calls, about 6 months after the eviction, "I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know that you saved my life. If you hadn't stood up to us, if you hadn't forced me to face what I'd become, I would have kept going down that path until there was nothing left of me." "You saved your own life, baby," I told him. "I just gave you the push." We weren't back to normal. We might never be back to normal. But we were talking. We were healing. And that was something. As for Tamika, I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved to Atlanta with some new man she'd met online. I hoped, for his sake, that she'd learned something from all this. But I wasn't holding my breath. 1 year after I served that eviction notice, I threw myself a birthday party. My 73rd birthday. I invited my church family, my sister Gloria and her family, my neighbors, my friends from the senior center. Even Terrence came, bringing flowers and a card with a heartfelt apology written inside. We gathered in my living room, with my furniture, my photos, my life, and we celebrated. Not just my birthday, but my freedom, my strength, my survival. Sister Claudette raised her glass. To Sister Odessa, who taught us all that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Everyone cheered. I looked around at all these faces, all these people who loved me and supported me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 6 years. I felt at home. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea looking up at the stars. I thought about that moment a year ago when I'd handed Tamika that eviction notice, when I'd finally said, enough is enough. It had been the scariest thing I'd ever done. Standing up to my own family, risking my relationship with my son, facing the possibility of being alone. But I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. I'd had my church, my sister, my community. And most importantly, I'd had myself. I'd learned that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat, that loving your family doesn't mean letting them destroy you, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply say no. My house was mine again. My life was mine again. And I was never giving that up for anyone. As I sat there in the darkness, I heard my phone buzz, a text from Terrence. Thank you for not giving up on me, Mama. I'm going to make you proud. I promise. I smiled and texted back. You already are, baby. One day at a time. And for the first time in 6 years, I went to bed in my own house, in my own room, and slept peacefully through the entire night. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.